Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's market review. This is Fred Razak at CMTrading. Today is November 16, 2022, and today is Wednesday morning. So looking at the highlights of the day, the US dollar slightly stronger going into today's session with major economic events scheduled for today. Starting out at 9 a.m. out of Great Britain, we have a yearly CPI numbers coming out. Now remember, last week we had the US with its yearly CPI, and that rocked the market. So this is a very important number. And then a 3:30 South African time out of Canada, yearly CPI number coming out, in core retail sales as well. Now there is corporate earnings today. Nvidia, Cisco, Lowe's, and TJ Maxx, major retailers and semiconductor, coming out today. Now looking at the various markets, the major pairs sit on resistance as Forex symbols. In the indices, the Dow Jones should have, could have, but didn't. The NASDAQ up slightly. We're going to take a look at that as well. Commodities, gold and oil slightly lower. Stocks on threshold, and lastly Bitcoin unchanged. So let's take a look at the markets and see what we can expect from today's trading. So here we go. We're first look at the Euro USD because that's the biggest pair. We hit 10477 yesterday, and then we made a correctional move. We hit all the way back down to 102, which is a major move for the euro. Now, I want to highlight something. There's this thing with Poland that they received a missile yesterday, supposedly from Ukraine, maybe from Russia. All this stuff is still coming out. So that's a news-related item, and the markets did react to it, but nonetheless, the fundamentals are still there. Okay, so you got to keep an eye on the larger picture. Now, looking at a daily, we are at a major threshold. Now, this we mentioned yesterday as going into this number. This is major support, major resistance as we hit this 200-day moving average. That's a major area for it. Now, looking at the GBP USD, also we got stronger here after hitting 120.25 and then retracing to 118. That's a major move for it. Now, looking at the daily, again, we're at that threshold. Previous support, subsequent resistance. Let's see if it holds it or breaks it. Now, if it breaks it, it's going to shoot. It's going to just like pop up. Now, the Dow Jones is also doing that yesterday. I'm going to take a look at that in just a second. But first, looking at the Canadian dollar, as it consolidates a 132 versus the USD, also somewhat at our resistance level. Previous resistance, support. Now, this is on the flip side because the dollar comes first and not the other way around. But looking at this, let's take a look and let's show you what I'm talking about. Right there is your previous resistance, subsequent support right there. So these are major thresholds, and they're all going to happen all at one time. So just be aware of it. Now, this is affecting also the indices. But before we get to the indices, let's look at gold. Trading at 1774. Starting to look like it's perking down. Let's see if it does. And if we do, we'll go there with some Oil slightly lower here as well to $86 a barrel after hitting $88. Now looking at the US markets. Okay, now this is a weekly chart. Now we are hitting this double top. Now this has been a V formation, and they're so obscene. Okay, this is 5,000 points about. Okay, between the high of 34,000 and the low of 28,800, that's 5,400 or 600 points, something to that nature. Okay, from the top to the bottom here, and we've done a perfect V formation. Now, in these type of situations, when we have a V formation, we usually have, I don't want to say usually, but many times we have a bear flag, and then we take up higher. Not necessarily so here, because we are hitting some thresholds. Now, going into the end of the year, we generally rally between Thanksgiving and New Year's. So this is something to really relate to, because if the markets do continue to act up, we could be back in the $35,000 area zone when it comes to the Dow Jones. Now let's look at a shorter time frame to give us perspective. Right now we're trading at 33,666. Now we hit a 34,000. We retraced to 33,300, and sitting on that support, didn't break it. Okay, so we're just trading sideways right now. So we're back into a doji kind of environment where we're just trading in this really tight range until we see some sort of breakout. Now, if we look at the volume, we did sell off with volume yesterday, so that may be an indicator, maybe not. Okay, Cisco and Nvidia are big companies that are coming out with their earnings today, so I wouldn't I don't want to jump to any conclusions, and I don't think the market are jumping to any conclusions, because you could see the indecisiveness right here as it's just consolidating in this area. NASDAQ did not move higher. Okay, it's been stagnant at this 11,900-ish level and just hitting that 12,000 and then just retracing. So we're seeing some more weakness in NASDAQ than we are in the Dow. But looking at the individual stocks, Apple traded in a doji yesterday, okay, after capitulating at 152 back to 150. Alcoa, relatively strong here, for $49 a share. If you look at JP Morgan, we did bounce off after selling off from that 136-ish level. Now keep in mind, okay, that this is really a very crucial time period for these stocks. Now, JP Morgan is a Dow component stock, so just know that. Microsoft also traded down yesterday, okay, which is, well, on a daily it traded down, but still was up at the end of the day. But nonetheless, it's hitting a certain threshold here at the top of the range, and if it falters, it's going to go further down. Now, there's a lot of fear in the market right now, okay? So any little kind of news can set it up on the downside as well. Now, looking at Cisco, let's take a look at it. Just trading in a really tight range between 44.35, 44.88 to 44.30, very tight 50-cent range is a very tight range. So let's see what it comes out with its news today. Now, lastly, looking at Bitcoin, we're trading and consolidating at 16,800 on the bottom of that range, as this has been beaten up because of FTX. Obviously, a lot of indecisiveness when it comes to Bitcoin, and we look like we're selling off. Now, the question is, are we going to continue selling off? So it's a momentum kind of trade. Just be aware that if it does continue to sell off, its next real support level is 12,400. So just keep that in mind. This is Fred Razak. I want to wish everybody a great trading day. Thank you.